Hello, let us discuss closures in JavaScript. Here's the official definition of closures on MDN. A closure is the combination of a function bundled together with references to its surrounding state, which is also called its lexical scope. We really cannot make out much from this definition. So let us take an example, a very simple example to start with closures. I will be declaring a function, not giving it a parameter, declaring the variable name, giving it a name, okay, and then inside this I'm declaring another function, let's say result, which is another variable, let's say greeting, which is set to hello. Well, I have deliberately given a space here, just to avoid. So console.log greeting plus name, and then execution of this result, and then display name. So now if you try to execute this function, well, not a big deal, we all can guess the outputs. So shall we execute this function? Yes. Hello in QView. So in this example, display name is the outer function. This is the variable defined inside outer function. Now this is an inner function, and we can see that it has access to variable defined outside this function, which is in the outer scope, or we can say that it is in the scope of the outer function and also in the inner function. Or suppose if they would have been a variable defined in the global scope, it would have had access there. But there is much more to closure than this example. So let us take another one and dig deeper into closure. So in JavaScript, closures usually have three scope chains. First, it has access to its own scope. Let me write it down for you. Scope of closures, access to its own scope. Well, it has access to outer functions variable as well. Access to outer functions variable. Also access to global variable. So the lifespan of a variable defined inside a function is equal to the lifespan of the function execution. So how does closures work internally? Let us take another example. In this example, we have an outer function again, and we have an inner function. In the outer function, we have a variable defined outvar, which is assigned a value 100, and then we have a variable defined invar inside inner function, and then it is assigned a value 200. Then we are just trying to console log the values of both these variables, and in the outer function, we are returning the inner function. Now, let's go to this piece of code. Here we are invoking outer function. So what happens when we invoke outer function? The variable outvar is created, a value assigned to it, and then there is function declaration. There is nothing to execute, and then there is a return statement accompanied with this variable named inner function. So a JavaScript sees that okay, this is a function declaration. So it attaches the entire function body to this variable platform A. So that is why whenever let us start this afresh to see this in action, I will be right now commenting this out and just trying to see what platform A holds, it holds the inner function. So basically whenever we are trying to execute outer function, right now we are just returning inner function, so it is holding on to this particular inner function body. Now in JavaScript, technically lifespan of a variable defined inside a function is the lifespan of the function execution. So things get interesting here. Now we know that inner variable exists inside this inner function, however outer variable, so this is binded to the scope of outer function, correct? And right now platform A has access to the body of inner function, it does not have access to body of outer function. However, when we try to execute this particular piece of code, we see that it retains the value of outer variable. Why? Because your inner function preserves the scope chain of the enclosing function at the time enclosing function was executed, and that is the reason it can access enclosing functions variables. Now let us tweak this example a bit further to make things interesting. I am removing this piece of code. I am adding another platform. Let's say platform B equal to outer function. Okay. And then what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to execute platform. Okay, yeah, I will be doing some changes here as well. Okay. So what kind of changes I can do here is I can try to change the values here. Let's say I am trying to increment this value, and I am also trying to increment this particular value, correct? Now I'm trying to execute this platform A, then I will trying to execute platform A again, and then I will be trying to execute platform B. Now what will happen? So let us first execute the code and then analyze what happened inside. So we can see that the values are getting increased for outvar. So outer variable is, the value of outer variable is increased the second time platform A was invoked. However, it again got reset to 100 when platform B got invoked. So what exactly happened here? So we all saw in our last example, in our last iteration, that inner function was assigned to platform A. Okay. So when platform A was executed first, so it had the invar was created, value was assigned 200. Okay. However, it didn't have outvar in its scope, so it looked to the outer function scope. Okay, so it had retained the value of outvar from the outer function scope when it was executed last time, correct? So it had the value 100. Now it printed out the value outer var equal to 100, inner var equal to 200. Now outer var is increased, so it appended the updated value in its scope, and inner var was also increased. Now second time when platform A was again executed, so again this inner var was created afresh. Hence the increment, however incremented this value last time, it didn't got retained. But since we updated the value of outvar in the scope, it had retained the inner function, the scope inner function had retained. So 101 was printed out. If we would have printed it again, let's say platform A, we would have printed it again, we would have one more incrementation. You see 102, and then again when platform B is executed, then again when platform B is executed, so platform B is executed when? So outer function is again executed. The scope it retains is this much only. Well, so when this was in this scope, outerware still had value 100. Hence, outerware is 100 and innerware is 200. So that is how the lexical scoping works and closer comes to play in JavaScript. Hope you like this concept. Thank you so much.